BIS Innovation webcast. We're going to talk about what we have done in Q1. I think we have, as always, a good evening, late evening, soon to be night in Asia, evening in Europe, and good morning to the US participants. Today, and this is also as a follow-up to the session we had in Q1. If you remember, we wanted to discuss more about, broaden the view a bit around the way we have evolved BIS. So, as always, I would say we have Michael Reberg on that will cover the BIS server part, and you will see how this will work soon. And then we have Sebastian Faller on as well, who will, at the end of this, demonstrate and talk a little bit around what we have done, what we have available within BIS Hub, specifically Integrate to Workspace. Anyway, let's move on and to get into the meat as soon as we can. As always, we will share the material, the recording with you as soon as we can after this session. We will, of course, questions. We like questions, so please post questions in the question chat box. And as always, after this session, we appreciate feedback, new ideas, what have you, that we can move on with and improve what we're doing towards you guys. Yes, let's move forward, please. The disclaimer is there, some notes, special notes, obviously around the content. So if you remember, and I hope you do, we ended the session in Q1 with trying to explain a little bit more, looking at where we are coming from the BIS 6.7 BIS server, and how we see that, building for the core, preserving the core that you have out there, and the way we believe, where we have added on functionality to help expand this, to advance your integration landscape. And we also have, as you may have seen during this year, and I also know that we have been on site with some of you talking about this, we are also doing add-on and enhancements around the way we deliver services to you. That part related to accelerated services we will not cover today. We will focus most of this time on BIS server, and in a kind of the traditional way, the way we explain what we have done in BIS, prior to this webcast, the previous quarter, and what we intend to do. So this form will be this will be the same as we have done before. At the end of this session, we will focus on what here is referred to as your cloud-based entry point to extend your BIS and to design and govern a little bit differently than from what you have maybe seen before. And this is equal to Integrator Workspace. So we will spend some time on that, giving you an introduction. Having said that, Michael, take it away. Let's move into the BIS server, and then we do this part as we usually do. Very welcome, everyone. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Ulf, for the introduction. Hello, my name is Michael Reberg. I'm Technical Product Manager here at SEEBURGER, and I have the honor to guide you and talk you through what we have achieved in Q1 2026. So for those of you that have or join the webcast regularly, this is normally my starting slide. And today we are talking about version 6.7.183 through 6.7.186. Next time, probably somewhere around in 3.5 months, we will talk about the version 187 to 190. Yeah, and Ulf already mentioned it. There is a lot of stuff happening in the BIS server, and today I will hopefully still talk the same speed as I normally talk, but we'll have a little bit less time, so Sebastian can give you a nice introduction into IWS. Nevertheless, we have a hotspot in user experience and operational cost reduction and deployment models. And today we already also prepared two demo sessions, both in the area of user experience. In the first session, we will look a little bit more into the multi-logical system possibilities and user experience in the process monitor. So last time we introduced the dashboard for an overview over multiple logical systems in terms of runtime data. And after that, in the second session, we will switch to the master data navigator, which in the segment of direction, we explained that we will go ahead and add the logical system or multi-logical system possibilities there as well. And last but not least, in the second part of the demo, we will do a little bit or show a little bit the changes in the control center. So let's dive right into user experience status end of Q1 2026. Now, when you first boot up your BIS 67186, you will probably notice that the colors and maybe some subtle changes in the theming are there right away. And this is also the first point that I want to talk about. So first of all, we added a new design manager and adapted the design to be a little bit more modern and have the same thing across the whole platform. You will notice that in AWS as well. And we enabled organization-specific base URL. So depending on the CI for the organizations or companies that you have on your system, you can now have the design ready and design up and running with the first click on the link. The second part here on the slide is something that I am very interested in, because this is one of the first changes we did to the documentation in terms of how you can educate yourself, so to speak. And this is that we added 3 5 to 6 minute long videos, which help to explain how the process monitor works. So giving you the basics for the different views and screens that we have in there and how to interact with the search and stuff like that. And if you have already installed 186, maybe on a sandbox or something like that, and you already have experience with those videos, I would love to hear your review or your comments to it. If not, please go ahead, test them, and give us feedback there. This will make all further videos that will be available in the documentation much better and give more value to you. In process monitoring, and today's demo will exactly show that, we have enhanced the handling of multi-value searches, also in a context-free environment, so to speak. So normally you have to define a key and then add the value, so basic Lucene index handling. And here we did some optimizations, so it's easier to work with multiple values in an end connected fashion, and also how we handle white spaces and also multiple keys, basically, without naming them explicitly. Then I already talked about the introduction of this process overview dashboard, and we added some new functionality there. Specifically, we were talking about or added drill downs for the areas that you're interested in. So before it was like, there's an overview of the organizations and some numbers that you can see what happens on the system, and then you were able to, with one click of a button, to jump into the process monitor in that logical system. And now we give you the possibility to interact more with this dashboard, but you will see the details in the demo. In the master data navigator, so this is a net new feature here, we added the possibility to see and edit data across all logical systems. So this is a net new feature in the navigator, and this is also backed by a new business service. So if you don't see the button that I will show you in the demo, it's probably the case that you have not assigned the business service. And after you've done that, you have the capabilities as you were used in the classic front end. So being able to see and then change to the certain logical systems to edit or manipulate that master data. Benefit with the browser is that you just jump into because you have the permissions for, and you don't have to log out and log in again to do the changes there. And in the log inspector, we added the possibility to search over multiple log file iterations. in one virtual file. So before, when you were going into the log inspector, you had to specifically select a time frame, and hence the iteration or the variant of the log file there. Now it's one big log file, so to speak. You search over that, and this is the first output of the final goal that we have: one global search over multiple instances for a certain adapter or component in BIS. Now, as I said, it's the first step, and yeah, with that being said, I would like to jump over into the first demo. But before I jump over, Ulf, do you have some questions for me, or can I jump into the demo?
No, let's go into the demo. There is no.
All right.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump right into. So I already explained it. So that's the process monitor dashboard, and you will look here. There's all the insights. You see the logical systems on the left side. So I have added a demo logical system A01, which we later on will also use in the master data navigator. And when you have used the previous version, you notice that there is no links on the right side for the categories like active processes, failed processes, process in final state, and stuff like that. And when you click on the link, you will see that there's a drill down, and all the status that are combined into, for example, the final state are listed here. And now you have the possibility to jump in what happened on my system in the last hour, the last 24 hours, or the maximum time range that you have selected for your monitoring data. So let's dive right into finished state. There's 2017 on the system, and you see we directly jumped into the logical system 000. We selected the final state filter, and also the finished category here in the filter. Now, this is good, but when you click on, or when you go into the details and also in the process inspector, there is some people that prefer to have everything in one tab, or in one browser tab to be specific, or that they want to use it in a multi-browser or multi-tab fashion, so they can jump fast between maybe multiple logical systems or multiple views and so on. And we got quite some feedback with the settings that we have added to be able to determine whether, for example, the process inspector or the details or the attachments are open in the same tab. And we thought it's enough to have that on with one setting, so open in new tab in general or open in the same tab. And with 186, we added the possibility to add or to choose whether the screen for details, the screen for the inspector, or for the attachments is open in the same tab, and vice versa. So thank you very much for that feedback. In my case, I said that details and inspector is in the same tab, and attachments will be opened in a separate browser tab. So just keep that in mind when you see the results when I click around. So let's go back to the search result. Now, double-clicking on the on one element in the process inspector opens the details view, and here we added quite some ease of use functionalities, and one I wanted to show you specifically because this was also requested a lot of times. So when you're working with the process inspector, you probably know that you can right-click on it and say, okay, copy key and copy value. And when you click on the value side, you can also say, okay, copy the search query. So you can easily determine what is the key and what is the value for a custom search query. But with multi-key value fields, you normally have a link like this one here. So we are now in the property back activity, and you see there's the response properties. You click on it, and then there's a second screen opening, and then you can scroll through and copy stuff there. There was a lot of feedback in terms of, hey, we want to be able to copy all at once or use that externally. So we added the functionality to use copy value. Now I have to bring up an editor. And what it does, it brings all the key value pairs into the cache. and then you can just paste it in here and work on it and copy data out of it to, for example, configure another flow, etc. This is not only valid for the property bag, but also for other elements that might contain multi-values, like the attachments, like, for example, in an API case, for example, when you have some input parameters there, so you can just copy that and use that in your process development. On the other hand, this makes life easier, but if you go in the process inspector tab, so let's open that as well, we got the feedback that the representation as XML is nice and we can work with it, but sometimes you would wish that it's easier to grasp the info that is there. So for this XML, it's rather easy because the key and the value is the only stuff that is within this property, and the nesting is not that big. But especially in the property bag, you were calling back to the classic front end and say, I want to have the key value pair table. So what we did here is when you click on the burger menu up here and you click on show compact view, you will get an easier to read, more classic front end compatible view of how you work with the property tab. And of course, it's in alphabetical order. So either you just copy it from the details view, you go in the process inspector view and use this other rendering. So it's just easier to work with the master data navigator. And last but not least, there's another change, and this is the logical system part. That's why I start with the logical system A01. So when we click in here and go to the master data navigator, I prepared the step here, and we go to addresses. Now, it saved the state where I was in before, so just unsee what you have seen. So when you click on SFTP client addresses, you see here that there's only one entrance in here. And if I'm responsible for multiple logical systems, I sometimes want to see what other master data is available in my other logical systems. So maybe I can get inspiration on how to, for example, do the naming, or maybe just copy some values from the different logical systems. And therefore, there's this new button up here with this world globe. And when I hover over it, you see show data from all logical systems. And this will then add them here. Just keep in mind, seeing them does not mean that you can edit it. So if you're in logical system A01 and you just double click on an existing master data, you see you can edit it and work vice versa. If you want to edit something from a different logical system, like for example, this partner configuration, you first have to navigate to the master data navigator in the logical system 000. Therefore, this button here as a quick link is there. And when you click on it, you will get a warning. You jump in there, and then you will be in the settings in the path that you had selected in the different logical system, and then you can right away edit the stuff. The last change I want to show you is related to how we handle, let me just go to integration, default domain, and then go to process management, and then to API process group. So when you edit B2B processes or integration flows, you have several opportunities how to visualize stuff. And there were some feedback in terms of how you work with conditional branches and with critical sections and also sub-processes. And there was a wish for when you add a conditional branch, normally you will just get the branches listed in this dropdown. But when you have to create a new one, that you had to exit the flow, then create a new branch. And it was just like a media break, so to speak. And now you can just choose the empty one, type in, for example, custom branch, and then press OK, and it will be added there. And once you double click on it, it's like you directly edit there, save, and then continue editing the previous flow that you have in here. And the other thing I want to show you there is once you're editing something, and last time we introduced the capabilities of activating and deactivating stuff, it was that when you deactivated something, then it was not visualized, and you was not able to distinguish between what is deactivated without clicking on the component itself and checking the active flag. Now, when you click on the active flag, you see it's directly in a lighter color, and that means that it's not active at the moment. And with that being said, I'm at the end of the first demo part.
Maybe you can, thank you, Michael. Maybe you can stay on. There is a question here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Keep the demo open. Yeah, hello. A great addition with the browser tab. I would like to ask if there will be option in BIS Process Monitor to share whole view of my favorites. Obviously, share it with the team that this person may be working with. Is that, you understand the question? Or
I assume that you meant when you have favorites added here and you want to share the favorites that you have created. Probably I assume that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at the moment this is not possible. What you can do is you can create the query for that and then share it with the share button, and the other user then can save it as their own favorite. But there is no, at least as far as I know, no possibility to share the settings on the left side, because this is a user-specific setting. Okay. But we just note it down. So okay. Yeah. Thanks for the.
Yeah. So that's a good question. Let's continue.
All right, so let's jump back into the presentation. Now, statement of direction in terms of user experience. This is what we already said. Just notice a typo in here, so it should be log inspector, not process monitoring. But the global log search with unified instance spanning log file is the next iteration. I already explained that in the previous slide. And one other interesting part is that we, again, got a lot of feedback in terms of transports. Last quarterly, we introduced the possibility to limit the data that you can install on the system depending on your permission set of the user that is applying the transport. And the second step that was kind of like in those requests is that customers or users of the transport feature want something similar like in the move to production from the classic Java frontend. And this is the editing of transports on the target system. So not only limiting that it's possible to install it or apply the changes, but also to, for example, do last ad hoc changes like changing a certificate or changing account data or something like that. In terms of API monitoring, I just want to mention that I already seen the implementation for it. So be prepared next time we meet again, so I can show you the API monitoring there. And it's basically like bringing it on the same state in terms of search capabilities and monitoring capabilities like in the process monitoring. Integration capabilities. Now, the PDF composer and decomposer, don't know whether you're using it, but in the previous time, we only had the possibility to use rasterization to create PDF-A out of arbitrary PDFs. Now this has improved even the last quarterly, and now that you will be able to do the transformation easier, we also added the validation via the PDF to address that. So probably a good and valuable feature for you to avoid conversion errors when going from PDF to PDF A3, for example. In the process engine, the smart retry handling has significantly improved in terms of handling long-running or long-lasting outages of partner endpoints. Now, there was quite some load on the system in terms of when there was the check whether the endpoint is back to full health again or to usable status again. And We improved that, so the interval in which the health check is done again gets bigger and bigger, so there is not that much load on the system depending on the outage of a partner. And also in terms of when you restart or re-enable the processes that were in there or the tasks that were in there, they will be queued and done in chunks rather than overloading the system at once. Also, last time we were talking about the possibility to enable the TLS session parameter logging for HTTP and REST-based adapters. And with 186, we added the functionalities for AS4, FTP, Kafka, OFTP, and WebSocket adapter. And when you have enabled this functionality, you can as well use the process monitor to search with in that whether your partner, for example, uses an outdated or an older version of TLS at that point. While we're looking, no, sorry, this is the second demo. Sorry, I wanted to go to the other part. So, second demo. Ulf, do you have some questions in the question box? Otherwise, I'll jump.
Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah. Okay. Now I noticed that I did quite a jump in the first demo, so sorry about that. I wanted to do process monitoring the first part and then master data the second, but I left out some stuff, so bear with me. I will make up for it. So second part is, let's talk about multi-value searches and searches without defining the key in this search bar here. So now we're in the process monitor in logical system 000. And when you look at, we have selected all, so all the processes are in here. And for example, if you would have liked to search for adapter and then the timer event, you would have had to define the adapter keyword and then colon the timer event. Now, with the latest change, you can just type in time event, press enter, and it will automatically determine the key. So it narrows it down to this adapter. And you can add additional adapters just with a white space in between. But you can also add other values here, like for example, the term API, and you just do space, API, press enter, and it will automatically narrow down the search depending on the time frame and the values that I've provided here. And for example, if we add not set here as well, then you will see that the list will increase. Now we have no not set in the last 15 minutes, so let's go to a larger time range, like for example 2 hours, and then we should have the not set in there as well. If there it is from ID, so you can just apply them there. If it happens that you have similar values or the same value in different key areas, and you need to specifically, for example, filter for the line of business or for the file type, you can still go ahead and put in the key colon value there, and then you get exactly the one. But most of the time, you're just searching for something in a quick way. You could use the quick search, or now you just type in the value up here, and we'll be able to search for that in multi-value and multi-key value pairs. The other thing that I wanted to show you was the control center. So let's dive right into there. There is now the possibility to, or not the possibility, but a change in terms of how we interact with interactions, or how we use interactions. So if you recall the demo from last time, let's just narrow it down to REST client, and we open it here. Then when you click on the interaction button, you have interaction overview. And when you click on it, it will go to the process monitor and filter down to the interactions that we did. But as well, if you go to the start interaction, and you will notice a difference here, you'll see that the interaction overview button is here as well. And you see this wizard style dialog now. That means, for example, if we look for the pad endpoint, then we say execute, then it will jump over into the results view, and you will see that there is an error, and sure, you can then now click on interaction overview and drill down what the error is. But you can also go back to the interaction view, and all the settings that you did before are still there and valid and can be repeated. And for example, we just used the wrong resource here. So let's do find by status and then add a new path parameter like status available. And then execute again. You see that it's executed, you get the result, and then let's click on the interaction overview and go to the last successful one, open it, and then look into the interaction data. You see what you have passed over as parameters. And when we go to the REST client, we can also show the attachments with the results from the endpoint. Oh, and it's empty. So currently there is nothing unavailable, but you can probably follow how you can interact with that. And this is not only valid for the REST client or the HTTP client. So every interaction or every adapter that can execute interactions now has this two-step variant. And when you're not happy with the result, or maybe there's an error, you can directly jump back without adding the data again and jump into the process monitor to get the details. All right, so let's jump back to the presentation.
No. We have to go back.
No. Okay, no problem.
Okay,
let's go ahead.
I'll try to see if I can explain this to you. Let's start. There's one related to search in process monitor.
Yep.
Cool. So if we are looking with a query, how are we handling performance on database? Currently, we see DB having long-running queries which causes CPU spikes.
Okay, so basically the initial search here.
You understood I hope I managed to.
Yeah. Okay. I think I understood, but we need to make it short, so to speak, in terms of the answer.
Sure.
So there is a differentiation between data that is in the index, in the Lucene index, in the database. Now, depending on your system and on which version you are, the answer might vary. So I would be very interested in what happens on your system, and maybe we can invite a developer to have a look at it. But most of the queries that you see here should not tackle the database, but the Lucene index. I know it does not perfectly answer your question, but it should give you an idea of what happens there. There's still maybe some database left, but it should get less and less and less with the technology we use there.
Okay, and we have, let's leave it like that for now, and it seems like the person that asked this will also share some more details later on. I think I'm worried that we're running out of time. There might be some more questions, but let's push those a bit to see where we are at the end. So please continue with the slides. Yeah.
All right, let's go on. So in terms of integration capabilities, where do we go? So the two things that I want to mention here is the process engine and the rule set that is used for SOAP-based entries. So before we have entries per endpoint and operation, and we want to make it easier and enhance how we use with that. So we have only one rule per definition file, and then determine, for example, in the process there, how it works. There's different approaches how to do that, but something like that will follow up in one of the next releases. And the other thing that I want to mention here is the BIS mapping runtime. We learned the hard way that there's still some endpoints out there that when you have a get, you can't use a body to, for example, narrow down what you want to do there, rather than using a path parameter or a header parameter, whatever. And therefore, we are now implementing the post and put operations in the mapping designer as well, so you can use those operations to gather data to enhance your output files when using mappings. If we jump to technology improvements, for all our service or all the systems that we deliver now, we use the JDK 214816 SA of Azul. This is the first appearance is in 67183 and up to the latest one. And we also updated the last quarterly release, which is 67182 Rev 2. Now, the second entry on this slide, I have to put in a disclaimer. So we've implemented Microsoft Entra ID authentication for Azure databases based on PostgreSQL. The thing is that we still need to test different scenarios, and we would be more than happy to look into your scenario, what you're using from the Microsoft authentication suite. So if you're interested in there, contact your favorite entry point into the SEEBURGER and tell them to get in contact with Technical Product Management, and we'll guide you there and take your scenarios and add that to our test suite. In terms of statement of direction, you've probably heard that we are looking into possibilities to everywhere in the platform reduce the resources necessary to operate our systems. And for the API gateway, we try to A, containerize, and B, reduce the amount of RAM, CPU, and also get rid of the internal H2 database. So that is one thing that is quite far in the roadmap. So I already see an alpha version for that. So stay tuned. It will be very, very nice help just in such volatile system environments, like spinning up API gateways and then removing them depending on the workloads in, for example, a Kubernetes environment. Operational cost reduction. Yeah, this one is a tricky one. So it's always good to talk about operational cost reduction, but most of the time those things are very technical. So I picked specifically two things where I want to go into there. So you can find the details of that in our release notes and in the changelog. You will probably notice that it also changed in 186. So maybe you can give us some feedback if you like the new format. But getting back to the operational cost reduction slide here, the configurable dumps on backlog events is one of the things that I think is worth mentioning. Means if you're running into a backlog situation, sometimes it's not that easy to determine what caused this backlog. And therefore we added config options that you can, for example, define that you do a heap dump or a thread dump on the first occurrence of such a backlog event. And that means, for example, if you then do use an incident report via our SEEBURGER support agent, then those dumps can be added there as well, or are added there as well, and give us and you as customer more insights on how to tackle this issue, or the how to develop a solution for it to avoid, for example, this backlog event. And the other one that I want to mention is the last one here on the list. It's the smart retry metadata for notification handling. So depending on whether you used, but when you enabled the notification for smart retry events, so a gate is in not 100% health or is down, endpoint is not there, then you will get a notification which up until now only contained the gate ID. So that's a UUID and it's not that human readable. And with that change, we made it possible to add human readable elements there. For example, the name of the gate that kind of failed. And then for an operator, it's much easier to go into the system and click on the right data set and go on without just copying the UUID. Or maybe it's a known downtime of an endpoint. With the UUID, it's quite hard to notice that. So you have to check something, and with the name of the gate, it might be easier to say, okay, we can ignore this downtime. System will heal itself after the endpoint is there again. Yeah, in terms of what have we planned in the operational cost reduction area, so the statement of direction, there was quite some feature requests in the area of how can we know what instances, what ports on these instances are used in my environment. So I can easy check and also talk with my IT contacts, administrators, for example, to change firewall rules or add ports and stuff like that. So the feature request is that we want to have an easy to use overview of all instances and their ports and stuff like that in one place that you can use. And this would not only be something in the UI, but as well in the CLI or via a REST service, so you can use that, for example, for your own reporting. And the other thing that I want to mention here is the option to disable payload storage for API gateways. So it is kind of like in the nature of API calls that they're more atomic rather than that you have to reuse, for example, such a payload storage. And even if something fails, it's normally that the client retries it rather than you have to start again from the payload that you have stored. And with the upcoming improvements in the API gateway in terms of footprint reduction, this option will also be in there. Yeah, but also this point shows you that sometimes it's a technology advantage, sometimes it's an operational cost reduction, or maybe a deployment model change, and you have to kind of put it in the right bucket here to present it. But in the end, they have impact on the whole platform. And last but not least, in terms of deployment models, I think the most significant change here is because there was a lot of requests on my desk, is when you have complex landscapes, so multi-instances, active, and so on. If you do an incident report via the SEEBURGER support agent or triggered the incident report via the BIS Landscape Manager, then maybe there happened something like there's an outage of the internet connection, service is down, or maybe there's a transport error or something like that. And if it fails, you most of the time have to restart this SSA generation or the zip file generation. And with the feature that we have introduced it with 186, it's now that the landscape manager will store those files and you can configure retention times or retention, not retention times, for those zip files. So if something goes wrong or you have to use it in a different fashion or want to edit it and investigate in the zip files, then you are now able to do so with this setting. For more details there, please look in the documentation of the Landscape Manager. But I think this will reduce the pain in terms of system usage and the amount of resources that we use on the systems in a great fashion. All right, so this will be my last slide in terms of the statement of different deployment models. You've seen, for example, with the API gateway, so doing containerization and being able to spin them up and or kill the instances depending on your load, which is one of the major factors why we are doing the footprint reduction and then being able to run in a container. This, we could have mentioned this here as well, but in general fashion, we are working on making the thing dynamic and elastic scaling, and also we are working on Helm chart delivery and Helm chart blueprints for your environments. And this is a general statement of direction. And once we have something, we'll mention it in this category also in the next couple of updates and quarterly update sessions. And that being said, I'm done with this presentation and I would like to hand over back to Ulf.
Yes, good. And I think we're in a good time as well. So yes, as we started, let's move to the next slide, please. We want to introduce a little more and more how we have evolved the overall business integration suite. And today we will focus on BIS Hub. BIS Hub is let's simply talk about the integration services that we provide in the cloud. There are two sides of the coin. You have what we refer to as integrated workspace, and I know, looking at participants, that some of you have been looking at this already, where you can design, govern, share integrations. There are assets that you can work with, and so on and so forth. And this is what Sebastian will show you. These integrations can then be deployed, obviously, in your existing BIS environment. And again, he will also emphasize on that in this demonstration. The other side of the of BIS Hub, and I'm not going to talk too much about that now, is where we offer packaged services. So that could be invoicing. Some of you are also looking at and using services for utilities or package services towards a specific industry in combination with your on-premise BIS. That we will save and discuss more further on when we start to introduce more and more around the Evolve Business Integration Suite. There's a slide in front of you now that high level describes some functionality and features in Integrate the Workspace. I think it's better to look at it, and Sebastian, I will give you the presentation now, and then I suggest that we dig into this and look at this for the end of this hour. Go ahead. I can see it. You're live. Go ahead.
Perfect. Thanks, Ulf. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Sebastian Voller, and I'm currently working as one of the product owners for this integrator workspace I want you to show. But first, as I'm also a consultant, let me quickly thank you, Michael, and the whole team for delivering so many nice features for this server. Makes also my life much easier. So instead of talking too much, let's jump straight into the demo. Today, I have the pleasure of giving you a high-level overview at what this tool actually looks like and how it feels to work with it. Yeah. So what you currently see here is the integrator workspace. And before we go any further into details, I want to show you right away one of the features. This is on the top right here, our user guide feature, where you can click and then you can see right away some of our announcements. Yeah, what's new here? You get right away information if there's some new functionality available. Yeah, of course. I also like to hear what Michael always has to say 4 times a year about what it's new and stuff. But it's also nice to have this kind of feature to see right away some of the details, yeah, and learn more about it. Yeah, why I started with this feature. There's also this guidance feature. So there are so-called tours available. Let me show you. Currently, we have 2. We want to enhance this. So if you want to have some of your employees or yourself get to know with the integrated workspace, you can also make use of these tours. And to make my life easier as a demo, I will also do this right away. So there is a nice welcome message, and then it starts to guiding you through the integrator workspace. So obviously there is a navigation menu on the left. And then we have our first highlight. This one is SEER, our SEEBURGER Integrator Assistant, which is an AI, which also has access to all of the documentation. So it can help you with all your questions without reading long documents. Pretty nice. Right into the product. Then, of course, our guides and announcement tool I just talked about. Then we have our feedback tool where you can send us your thoughts, your wishes, and maybe one or another bug if you find some. And then, of course, we have our integrator workspace help. You can also don't need to use here. Of course, you can also jump directly into our help, online help for this tool. And then if you have at some point enough of integrating something, yeah, I cannot imagine that, then you have also, of course, the logout button for this. On the bottom left, you see hopefully your username if you're using it. Currently, it's mine. Then you have a minimize or maximize button. And then we're going straight to the menu points. First, we have our dashboard you already seen. Yeah, so this is the first screen you will see, which gives you some introduction about the figures, the flows, and how big the messages were and stuff. Then we have the projects view. This is the main working area where you create your projects, your flows, your mappings, and so on. We will look at detail into this some minutes. Then we have our deployments view, where you can see which flows are currently deployed on which instance. So we have one flow deployed here on our shared runtime, which is our SEEBURGER cloud runtime. But obviously you could also then deploy it onto your on-prem BIS or wherever your BIS server is hosted in any cloud, and can deploy your flows also there. Then we have the assets. This is our asset catalog full of connectors, templates, mappings. Yeah, I will also go in detail later here. Then we have our runtimes. Yeah, I just mentioned you can also deploy your flows which you designed here in this design time also on some BIS server. So you can see here I connected my Hive demo BIS server, which is pretty easy. There's a guide for it. It's done in minutes, and then you can just deploy your flows onto your BIS server. Then we have the monitoring tab. We will also look into detail later on a little bit more. Yeah, of course you can see your flows and filter them and stuff. So yeah, then there is a calculation for me, and yeah, thanks. So let's close with that, and we'll look into the asset catalog into a little bit more detail. Yeah, what can we see here? We have some connectors. Connectors are basically pre-built stuff to connect to currently most SaaS applications, yeah, but also to our SEEBURGER cloud services, to the BIS server itself, BIS REST APIs, to Microsoft services, yeah, you name it. Let's look right into one of these. So for example, the Microsoft SharePoint connector. And then you can see here more documentation, how it is used, how it's to configure further links to further documentation from Microsoft, and other helpful instructions. And then, of course, you can also, if you're interested in the more technical details, you can also check the Swagger UI file here and browse through it and see what is behind this connector. So there are, you can use the SEEBURGER provided connectors. Yeah, there are quite a lot and continuously growing. So we're working on it and adding like monthly more of these connectors. But of course, you could also upload your own connectors and create them for your own organization. Currently, they are only available for your organization. There are plans that you could also, if you want, to publish them for other customers. But currently, it's only possible for your own organization. Then we have here on top the templates tab, and templates are basically a combination out of connectors, mappings, and the flow configuration. Yeah, so this is the full full flow configuration which you can use. Yeah, so also there are some from SEEBURGER provided. So let's see for example, we'll look into the Coupa flow. So how does it look like? So this is a template for the good receipts Coupa to SAP flow. There's an overview, description, some documentation for it, and also an image how this flow will look like if you use it. You can then, if you like, just use it and create, for example, a new project and put this flow in there right away. So now I created a flow out of the template and I can fit it to my personal needs. You can see here there's a scheduler trigger, the Coupa connector, loops and mappings and stuff. Yeah, everything you need, and then you can change it to your needs, add your personal credentials, change some of the mapping stuff, and so on. Whatever you need, but you have a kickstart right away for this Coupa integration, for example, which is pretty nice in my eyes. Okay. Then let's have a look into the projects view. You can see here some of the different projects, also the Coupa project I just created. Let's dive into this SEEBURGER demo project. In this project view, you have then flows. Then you have also subflows, which you can reuse in different flows, just to make your life easier. Here I have an error handling flow, which sends notification to Microsoft Teams. Then we have accounts, obviously, yeah, for security, credentials, OAuth configurations, you name it. Then we have trust stores if you have some certificates you need in your flow somehow. And then, of course, we have mappings. Yeah. So let's look into this flow. So this is basically a flow with a scheduler trigger where I can configure, okay, how many minutes I want to have it executed each 5 minutes or something like that. Yeah. There is also an HTTP trigger, a chat trigger. There are multiple things available. Then we have two connectors, the CDemo CRM connector and the CDemo ERP connector here. These are basically demo connectors, which also are available in the asset catalogs for you to just play around if you want to just quick start right away and just try something out. These are basically mocked CRM and ERP interfaces. Yeah. Then we have here a loop. Then we have a mapping, and then of course the second connector. So what this flow does is gets the customers inside of the CRM, loop through all the customers it has found, has a mapping from the CRM format to the ERP format, and then puts those customers into the demo ERP system. So how does this look like if I have a connector? Yeah, so this is the CDemo ERP connector. You can configure your URL, your accounts. Yeah, this is different to each connector. Yeah, can look a little bit different depending on the needs of the connector, of course. Yeah. And the next cool feature I want to show you here is, for example, the step testing. Yeah. Pretty much appreciated. Yeah, speaking as a consultant, you can test a single step here. So if I go into test and test flow step, then I have this single step test here, and then I can see, oh, this did not work. I got back unsupported media type. Yeah. So, and then here is the next feature I want to show you. There is AI integration. Again, we have our seer here. So you can click here and then say, okay, let's analyze this error. So we give her some time to check these details. And then she said, oh, unsupported media type. And as she has the backend information from this connector, that XML might not be the correct content type. So let's go to configuration. And you've seen I have here application XML. And she suggested, okay, use application JSON and let me right away fix this for you. So I can press apply. And now she changed it to application JSON automatically. Yeah. I can also revoke that, of course, then. Yeah, I can also undo that if it's not what I wanted. Then, of course, you can also test the full flow, not only a step. So let's run the full flow, and then you can see here and click right into these steps. If you click on the left side, it will automatically jump here on the right side to the relevant step where you are. And then you can, of course, see here your input and your output of this step, which is pretty nice. As you also have seen, there is a mapping in there. So let's have a quick look at the mapping. So we can edit this mapping right away. Yeah, we have a source and the target side and the representation schema here. And we have on the right side down here, we have the code editor. And then, of course, you can just, if you want to, like drag and drop. Yeah, and then it changes the code here automatically. Speaking of the code, this is the same code as you are used to in the BIS mapper because it's the same component. The code is compatible to BIS mapper. Yeah, so it's also possible to write BIS mapper mappings and use them inside of this integrator workspace and inside your flows. So you can use here for small changes, yeah, or for small mappings, and for complex mappings, you could also use the BIS mapper as you're used to. You have also the chance to change here some settings, yeah, put in strings, condition, functions, whatever you need. There's a visual editor for that. Yeah. Also a nice feature, AI-based, you can also generate sample data, yeah, using AI. So it will check the source or target structure, whatever you need, and generate you sample data. Yeah. So if you want to test, then let AI generate some sample data for you. Okay, let's leave the mapping part for now. Also, one thing is, Some of the customers have hybrid scenarios. There's also, of course, a SEEBURGER BIS server connector. So if you want to maybe don't want to connect to the ERP system directly because it's an on-prem SAP, for example, then you can just remove this part and replace it with our SEEBURGER connector, which can then send your messages to the BIS 6 server, which is also pretty cool. One more feature, we have this AI-generated documentation, which also really helps. Yeah, I know everybody loves here writing documentation. So let AI generate it from you. Yeah, the better you document the flow, the better will be this generated documentation. And then you have also here the possibility to see right away in Markdown format, which is quite nice if you want to have it for an AI-based repository or something like that, or just for your own documentation purposes. On the left, we also have quite many features here, not only connectors, we have controls. Yeah, we have also AI agents, invoke chat models to use LLMs and so on. Mappings, subflows, yeah, everything there, what you need for a nice integration. Last but not least, because I guess we are end of time, we have the monitoring. Just let me shortly show you the monitoring here. You can see here your flows and check also these details, and then you see nearly the same monitoring as we have seen it already. Yeah, you can here see your steps on the left side, and on the right side you can see the details of this flow inside this monitoring. So, and with that, I guess we are done for this demo, and I will give back to Ulf for handling some questions if there are.
Yes, excellent. Let's wrap this up. At least try. Michael, there are you. Yeah, we're running out of time, obviously 3 minutes after. There is still a lot of you on, and we really appreciate that. Yes, I mean, I hope we gave you an idea of what we have done, you know, again, evolving BIS moving forward. This is the way we intend to do these sessions. There were some questions. The questions that we didn't answer, we will definitely get back to as we usually do. So let's move on. There is a few more sessions. We always try to foresee what could be interest for you guys out there. Sebastian talked about mapping. We know that mapping of data is critical for any type of integration you're doing. So, and we have evolved that. We have been thinking and we're looking at how to move assets between versions, make sure of also, as Sebastian addressed a little bit, maybe quick, but still around, you know, a different way of working with maps from a usability point of view, if you're now in a web-based environment versus being more into BIS Mapper, more as a developer in a designer environment, so to say. We will address this and also how to store that in a mapping session in June. I recommend that for you to sign up for that. The details are already on the web on our event page. With the next one in this series of webcast is in July. There will be a similar setup as we move forward, as I mentioned. And again, we hope we can get feedback from you on what we did today, and then we will adjust, following. Next slide, please. Let's wrap this up. The community, some of you are already in. If for those of you who are not in, we also recommend that. That's a way for you to share, you know, what you're doing, experience, you know, ideas, architecture, what have you, with peers within the SEEBURGER BIS community. And finally, again, emphasize feedback, always welcome for us to understand how we can improve sessions like this and other things, of course. So by that, thank you very much from me. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Sebastian. And until next time, all the best. Thank you.